Welcome, I'm Eric, callsign N1JUR, and today I'm going to review another 3 iOS ham radio apps so you don't have to download them yourself. So let's get into it. So this first app is another logger I had ran into. Now, there are a number of mainstream ones that are out there that I have reviewed on my channel already. This one is a Mac-specific logger. So if you are a Mac user, then this might be right up your alley. However, there are some things that I just want to bring your attention to that, may or may not break the bank on that one. So let's dive into PulseQSO here. All right, so this app is a pretty basic logger. I'll say that it's Mac specific, as the developer notes in his README files and help files that it syncs to iCloud. So you don't have to worry about ever losing a copy of your log. So it's available in your iCloud files and you can get access to it. This app logger is a very basic logger. I'll be upfront with that. If you're looking for something that's more feature rich like hammers or Polo, you may want to look at those loggers. This logger, like I said, does not, encompass all areas of logging in ham radio. It's a basic logger for you. So if you are looking for something to be able to track maybe some of your, 5.2 contacts you make while you're on the road, this might suffice that. Or maybe you're just a paper logger by heart and you need something to be able to transfer that data into and be able to export it and use it in all of your other loggers in your home shacks or upload them to other systems. This might suffice that purpose as well. It is a main logger, so you cannot create multiple, or at least I haven't been able to find a way to be able to create multiple log names. So once you create the log file at the very beginning and assign one, this is your primary and only log that you'll use going forward. So all your contacts will show up here. So let's kind of go through some of the features in here. So simple adding call signs and contacts into your system. As simple as just typing the call sign here and putting in the 59 and your RST and your sent. Frequency and power and all of that stuff usually retained from last time you entered it. One of the features that I'm really kind of bummed about and is a little, I think cumbersome in the design is if you aren't obviously just doing single sideband as your mode and say you're doing, FT8 or something, trying to find the right mode in this list with all of these bubbles, I think is kind of, backwards, we'll say. As if I was just trying to, track something via sideband, via being USB or lower sideband, I have to go through each of those bubbles and tap that mode instead of just maybe selecting a drop down where all other loggers kind of have that feature and capability. So I think that was kind of a short-sighted in that sense. And then logger type, I'm not quite sure why or what the features you're going to gain out of flipping from general to contest mode, why you wouldn't want to be able to log, the mode and the type is you make a contact. They're the same in both contest and regular, so I don't know why the developer decided to do that. The contest type and contest mode, again, these bubbles, kind of silly. I'm not going to go through this if I don't happen to know exactly what contest I'm selecting, and it could have been easily solved with either drop down or some other search capabilities that was querying a database. The comment field is just a typical comment field. These other features, again, like I said before, this is a basic logger that is all about making sure that you can track your contacts. Now, I would say that QSL card received and sent date, the benefits to that, you're not really seeing anything because in essence, I'm just tapping it and it's filling in the current date. So I'm not sure what the benefit is if you use this to track something or when you receive something. When you got the QSL card, it just populates the latest date in there. But again, if this is your primary logger, that might make sense and be useful to you. So other features in here, EQSO. I like the idea that they wanted to incorporate that, but at the same time, like, why not have a capability to build the connector to your EQSL account? So if you did receive an EQSL, it could properly assign or connect that contact to that EQSL, and then you'd have that confirmation there already in the system. This is kind of, again, just a feature, kind of an update, manual field. So you're not really gaining anything in terms of whether or not that actual is a valid contact, because there's no cross-reference to be able to get into any of those features there. So obviously once you've saved the contact, it doesn't deal with dupes or anything like that. So I can put that contact in there several times and tweak that. So outside of some of the basic design functionality that I think is a little short-sighted, it's not a bad logger. In essence, if you're looking for something very simple and you are a primary paper logger, this might be an alternative to get you more towards the digital side. The one drawback that I really can't, really forgive the developer is this export feature. I don't know about you, but in essence, there are many other log export formats, and if anything, Cabrillo is not the only one that everybody uses. Although for most of the contest side of stuff, yes, it is. But there should be no reason why you can't do an ADIF type format where many other logging facilities and programs accept that format. So kind of shame on the developer for not offering many other options, especially having at least an ADIF as an alternative to whatever it is. Now, the one of the things that I'm not quite sure about how and what the developer's intention was is tags. I'm a big tag person, love to have that on all of the things I create, helps me do searches. In this app, if I tag a certain contact color or anything for that matter, I should be able, from that search, be able to pull up all of the tags that have that or contacts that have that label in it. Well, this app doesn't allow me to do that in the search. It comes back with me and tells me that it can't find that information. So I'm not sure what the intentionality was with the tags, but maybe it might be a feature enhancement that might get integrated later. But that's PulseQSO, and hopefully, maybe that might make a home in your, smartphone there. All right, this next app, I am going to be upfront and say I'm a little disappointed. I'm not sure what the developer's intentions were with it, but it is going to be a very much and a nuisance for me, and we'll kind of dive into it. This app is called NetLogger Companion. It is a companion app, we'll say, for the famous and very useful web-based NetLogger for online net tracking of logins and whatnot. I've used that for several nets that I've attended, and I know a lot of net control operators use that for local nets and the like. So I would have assumed this app would have been very much lockstep with a lot of the functionality in it. Based off the screenshots when I looked at it, seemed that it had a lot of promise. But as I keep going through the app, I'm running into some frustrations and really hoping with this recording, as we go through this app, it'll actually work. But I'll go into some of those concerns in a second here. So obviously when you fire up the app every time, you get this nice little disclaimer. Again, this may have been a concern and a problem about 15 years ago when smartphones were relatively new and people were being idiotic. Again, I'm not saying it's 100% gone these days, but there's no need to constantly have a disclaimer pop up saying that the owner or the developer is going to not be held liable for this is silly to say, because in essence, even if I hit the disagree button or I hit the agree button, every time I fire up this app, this disclaimer pops back up again. It's like it should go away after I've confirmed it. At that point, the liability in my mind is pretty much null and void from the developer's responsibility. I should say that they, ask the user once. That's simple standard kind of coding. When you get in this app, you get a list of current nets that are currently on or going on, my guess. But there is really no kind of initial steps for you to go through the app to be able to get set up properly. Because as I started to learn and use the app, I found that I got frustrated fast because there was no real kind of direction to tell me, oh, you need to set up this account. You need to add this type of key in order for the app to work and function properly. So let me walk you through those steps here real quick. You're just going to go into the settings here. There is the settings screen. Now, I am not sure what user and user fields mean and what they should be. As you know, I would assume that your username would be the username you use in NetLogger, or you would have displayed in NetLogger. But what the second user field applies to, not quite sure, or whether it's tied to my QRZ API key. Now, here's a little frustration, is that this app obviously is, in my mind, probably a app that does a lot of queries out to QRZ consistently over and over again. And the reason why the developer chose not to use the generic username and password that you use for QRZ is because there's a limitation on the number of queries you can make to that database if you're not using your dedicated API. Now, I know that they've changed that format a little bit because there are newer apps that have just your QRZ information and they have no problem making the queries as they need to. But to be truthful, you know, the fact that my QRZ API key is required makes me a little unnerved. But at the same time, now I have to go out to my QRZ page on another computer, open up another browser, say on the same iPhone, go find my API key, copy and paste it in there. And if I'm copying it, you know, from one device to another, I have to manually enter that in and screw up that 20 or 30 character API key at any given time. And I don't know even if there's a verify to that thing, because it says settings are saved automatically, but then they put a PayPal button right below it, which is very confusing if you're a user, because you assume that you're going to use that button to apply. So, you know, again, lack of design thought, you know, goes a long way, obviously, in being able to make the app more usable. You know, I'm not quite sure what the intentions were. Maybe the developer should explain why you would use your API key over just a regular QRZ username and password login. So once you're kind of set up with that, and again, like I said, I don't even know what the two user fields are, so I just put my call sign in there twice. If you tap on Act Nets, which I assume are active nets, but it's abbreviated, so you could, you know, kind of get confused with that process. They're the nets, and I assume based off of the same data, if you went up to NetLogger, you would find that these hubs, nets were running. And if you just tap on it, you can see the details of what's going on. And then you've got the two typical features that NetLogger has, which is being able to monitor net. And then you've got the AIM component, or what we'll call SMS type chat, which is not truly SMS, but it's like AIM-like to be able to use within NetLogger itself. Once you're in it, it seems pretty straightforward. The one thing I did find, and I don't know if I'll be able to, like, and again, I'm not sure kind of what the deal is with this, because in essence, when you're looking at data and as a end user, you go through the steps of like, oh, a down arrow means if I tap that, I should see details from there. Well, as you can see, tapping does absolutely nothing to any of these, you know, in this, you know, list. Now, is this a list of all the active nets currently, or are they a list of up and coming nets? It's not clear. So unless you're really a true, you know, NetLogger user and you know that system very well, you're going to find that you're going to probably struggle with the app a little bit and its functionality. But again, you know, you're just pulling up another list under monitor. Well, is that just the people that are on the system currently? You know, what does that represent? It's, again, not well thought out in terms of allowing, say, a new user who is new to NetLogger on the web to be able to download this and be able to just kind of pick it back up and use it, because they're already kind of used to the functionality. So outside of that, one of the bad things I kind of ran into was the nets that might have like a large number of entries. I found that the app constantly crashed on me, and what ended up happening is that once it crashed the first time and I went back into it, it would keep telling me that I've exceeded my retries. And to what effect, I don't know what those are. And it was only after I let the app settle down for a good 15, 20 minutes that I was able to get things back. So, you know, if you're a NetLogger user and you're accustomed to this app because you use it as a companion like it's intended, then, it might be right up your alley. But if you're a new user and a new user of the NetLogger community, you might get very, very frustrated with this, as it's a struggle a lot to be able to, make it useful to anything. And I know the reason why the developer popped up that little message all the time, because you're going to get mad while you're trying to access something very quickly on the road, and you can't do that with this app. So that's the NetLogger Companion. All right, this last app is DX Toolbox. Now, I just want to put the caveat on front that this is a paid app. It's about $4 to download it. Now, I'm strongly suggesting that if you are, one of those people that don't really, get into the details of solar data and understanding how to leverage it properly to be able to work the contact or the QSO in a specific, area of the globe, that this app is probably not for you. So I would say you might want to stick to the shallow end of the free apps pool when it comes to, looking for DX or solar type propagation tools, as this one is feature rich. And as we kind of go into it, you'll see what I mean. But at the same time, it's pretty steep for someone who may not be accustomed to being able to do or manipulate a lot of the details that when you get into the technical side of things of solar propagation. So let's go into it here. Let's go into DX Toolbox here. So the first thing you're going to do with DX Toolbox is you are going to go into the setup information, and you're going to click on use location, so it pulls in your lat and longitude, because that is critical in setting things up for the first time with the app. Again, once you've got them in the field, you just back out of it because it saves it automatically, but it's obviously not intuitive enough to know that. You have to go into the help file, which I have to say the help files are pretty well written. So as long as you take the time to actually go through it and read it, you'll be able to make heads or tails out of it. So now that you've got that set up, the next piece is, well, okay, I want to try to figure out how I make a contact. And so, as you may or may not have learned yet in understanding propagation and solar, data and that type of stuff, is that a lot of times it's kind of I'm going to just get on the radio and see what I hear. Those that know how to leverage the solar, information are trying to optimize the opportunities for them to be able to make the most contacts out of a certain geographic region at a certain time of the day or hour or, a span of hours. So you're going to, as you learn to kind of get into solar propagation, this is, something that you're going to have to develop as a skill. And so what I can say is that, you can start if you were trying to calculate, say, based off of the time. In this case, I was running some tests, and so I chose an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean called Pico Island. Those are the coordinates for that. The solar flux information is what it pulled in from the solar flux index currently at the time, and then I pop in my hours, my power, and the UTC hour that I want to start at. And then all you do is hit calculate the top, and it will present you the graph, and you're like, well, fine, a graph. What's that really going to help? Well, you can read the graph based off of a number of details. You can see that the dB, that one of the x-axis or one of the axes is a dB rating. The other one is the noise floor rating. And then you have a megahertz axis as well. And so if you look at the, graph here and say I want to get on 20 meters and I wanted to get the best opportunity in time for signal, you're going to find that, my signal to dB ratio at, say, for 20 meters is, relatively good for, that specific time at 0 UTC. If I went in and plugged in another value for the time I was looking to, say, work England or Pico Island in this case, this is going to tell, a different story or a rough, calculation on when and what my best capabilities are for both hearing them and being able to, work them, say, on, digital modes or CW or something. So then you can tap over, say, if you want to go into frequency. So say, I want to do this by a frequency. I can set the frequency and the date, calculate, and now it will give you a better graph, and that's over time. So this is another way to kind of slice it and dice it. And you'll see that, between the hours of 1500 and 1600 UTC, my noise floor will be S1, which would be very, very low. might not be as strong, at the later hours for maybe to make that contact with, that person or that area. It's a good, accurate, or more accurate tool to be able to help you kind of diagnose when are the optimum times for, making contacts for that geographic region within the tool. And, there are many other things in here. You can do a muff-luff calculation. For those that know what that is, when you took a technician, they talked about the maximal usable frequency and the least usable or lowest usable frequency. And the nice part about it is they do a nice color scale, so you can tell very quickly, based off of the color coding, what your noise floor is, as well as, signal strength. And then compare that to the graph, and you can see, based off of, times of days, when the prime or most optimum time is for making contacts in that, specific geographic region. There are a bunch of other great features in this tool. There's the gray line map, so you can see, you can also do an offset to it and see kind of where things are kicking off, and it's very real time. Based off of other stations reporting. And then there is a propagation map. You can see based off of, you can pop in a frequency. So say if I pop in frequency 1400, 100 watts, that's roughly my coverage area, which is, I think, a really good feature. So if I'm actually just trying to work, say, FTA contacts, and I'm trying to get a better idea of, maybe where I'm going to be heard and how people are how I'm going to hear them, that's a rough, idea. And so, you can drill down in. Actually, I think the map is pretty static, but that's fine. You can also look at your K and A index. Again, this is all pulled off of real time, so it's all of that's updated, so you don't have to go and worry about it. I can look at a K graph here, and it gives me everything you see on sites like. I'm trying to think of a few of the sites, but anyway, there are a number of sites that have all this data reporting. Vocad is what I was thinking of. And all of this stuff is pulled in here. So I can look at solar wind data. I can look at solar wind data graphs. This is just, it's very feature rich and very, very detailed. And so my thought is that if you're getting into solar weather and understanding all of that, obviously look at a lot of the resources that are out there, but at the same time, once you get past understanding, the initial understanding, and you want to get into more of the weeds, this is a great app to be able to kind of just use as you're kind of understanding those patterns and then learning how that adapts to frequency and location. And then you can balance that with, antennas, what antennas may perform better in those situations and directivity of those antennas and so forth and so on. So it is a very, very large proverbial Christmas ball of lights when it comes to solar data and understanding as a ham how you can leverage propagation to make the best and most optimum contacts with a specific area. And DX Toolbox definitely dots their I's and crosses their T's on that. So for the $4, I think it's a good value. So I would say if you're into that stuff, then it might be a good thing to have as a app in your smartphone arsenal for ham radio stuff. All right, well, there you go. There's another 3 more iOS ham radio apps, and hopefully you got something out of those apps and know which ones to steer away from, depending on what you were looking for. But again, I download them, so you don't have to. So if we've not covered an app, maybe that you think we should, you can always email me at n1jur.nh@gmail.com. Or you can leave that app down in the comments below, and I'll make sure I get that into my next iOS app reviews. And as always, if you haven't liked, subscribed, or shared, please definitely do that because it gets this content in front of other hams who could benefit from it. And as always, again, if you have any comments and you'd like to email me, you can always email me at n1jur.nh@gmail.com or head over to n1jur.com. And with that, thanks for watching, and 7-3.